The free agent frenzy continues, and the Diamondbacks still aren't part of it. The Cubs get Kyle Tucker. We got Devin Williams going to the Yankees. Crazy things are happening. We're talking all about all these trades and all this free agency talk in 30 seconds. Please stick around and join us. Happy Friday. Welcome in to Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K. And more importantly, welcome in to another edition of the PHNX Dbacks show right here from PHNX HQ. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as your mayor of Fridays. This man is the one and only Thunderstick. That was a funny joke from earlier. Thunderstick, Jesse Friedman, my vice mayor. Welcome into you all. Great to see Hooch here 2 days in a row. Happy you could make it. And happy to see you guys here. Not really happy to see some of the deals that are going down, especially considering that the Arizona Diamondbacks are not part of these deals. But of course, we know that the big story that's developing right now is that the Cubs have apparently acquired Kyle Tucker from the Houston Astros for a fairly decent haul in return. And Devin Williams was traded to the New York Yankees. Devin Williams, a closer that we were very much interested in the Diamondbacks pursuing. The Brewers will receive second baseman Caleb Durbin and Nestor Cortes for Devin Williams, which, as Jesse pointed out to me earlier, is kind of a funny exchange for two relief pitchers that really kind of had a meltdown there in the playoffs.
Yeah. Most recently, what people have seen from these two guys has not necessarily been great. Devin Williams was a little bit on the struggle bus during that series against the New York Mets. And of course, he's the one who gave up the 3-run homer to Pete Alonso that turned what very much looked like a series that the Brewers were going to win into a series that they tragically lost. And then, Nestor Cortes, starting pitcher for the Yankees, has been pretty good when healthy, but he also had a bit of a rough moment in the postseason in Game 1 of that series against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Nestor Cortes gave up a very memorable walk-off grand slam to Freddie Freeman. So, what we've seen from these guys on the national stage recently has not been great, but that does not take away from the fact that Nestor Cortes is a pretty solid starting pitcher, mid-rotation guy who, again, is pretty darn good when healthy. And Devin Williams, despite what we've seen in a very small sample size in the postseason, is perhaps the best closer in all of baseball. Certainly someone that we've talked about as a possible target for the Diamondbacks as well.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at his stats from 2024. You can see here, Devin Williams had himself quite the season. 1.25 ERA, a 0.97 WHIP, 22 and a third innings pitch. Was that it this season? Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct. Wow, Devin Williams was he was hurt. He had a back issue for much of the season, and then came back toward the end of the year and looked exactly like himself.
43.2% strikeout rate, 12.5% walk rate, 17 out of 18 saves. One of the elite closers that were available, I guess you could say, considering we knew the Brewers were shopping him around. And I don't know. What are your thoughts? What you guys here in the chat, what are your thoughts on the return? I know that the feeling has to be that the Diamondbacks could have made some sort of comparable offer to perhaps get Devin Williams. I just don't know if that was who they wanted to pursue. I don't know if we thought it would be a good fit, but we don't know if the Diamondbacks were actually interested in Devin Williams.
I think I'm with Riley in the chat, who said this is an insane return for 1 year of Devin Williams. I do agree with that. It could have been crazier, but this is still a pretty hefty return. I mean, Nestor Cortes again he had a 3.74 ERA and over 170 innings in 2024. So he's a pretty darn good starting pitcher. It's only 1 year of him. So I think he's expected to make $7.7 million in arbitration. So from a salary standpoint, Williams and Cortes basically match exactly. I know the Yankees are also reportedly kicking in $4.5 million into this deal. So the Brewers do come out on top, save a little bit of money in this deal. And then Caleb Durbin is a fascinating prospect, very Diamondbacks-esque, actually, in some ways. He's 5'6", but plays basically every position. And
is he a left-handed outfielder by chance? Because if so, let's get him. Let's get him.
He does. He can play the outfield. He can play in a variety of spots. But yeah, had a really nice season in the Yankees farm system. High on base percentage guy. Basically never strikes out. And a cool story as well. He went to Washington University out in St. Louis. I'm sure Kevin appreciates the St. Louis shout out. And yeah, Caleb Durbin, I mean, pretty impressive story going from playing in Division III to now being, I wouldn't call him like a top prospect necessarily. I don't think his ceiling is all that high. He doesn't have much power, but I think the floor is pretty high as someone who can play just about everywhere, and the bat to ball skills should translate to the majors.
Kevin is wearing a Los Angeles Rams jersey today, which he discovered was a Los Angeles Rams, not a St. Louis Rams jersey. Also has a Dodgers hat hanging in his office.
It's really not a Dodgers hat,
so
though.
It's a Lakers hat.
It's
looks
not.
like a Dodgers hat.
It's
It's
not.
wild.
It's not.
The accusation the accusations levied against me are there. There's more damning evidence against Kevin than there ever will be. But I will say this. The Diamondbacks could have potentially made a similar trade, right? What would the equivalent have been? It would almost been like including, I guess, Ryan Nelson in a way.
I think
is that too much? Is it more like
Ryan Nelson would probably, because Ryan Nelson has what is it, 5 years of club control remaining at this point. Nestor Cortes has just the one. So I do think Ryan Nelson is probably viewed. 4 years of control remaining with Ryan Nelson. So
okay, that'd be too many years of control.
Yeah, I mean, and not to say Ryan Nelson is necessarily like a lock to be a really good pitcher for the next 4 years, but yeah, I think Ryan Nelson is probably viewed a little bit more highly as a trade asset. But I do think that Merrill Kelly is a pretty good comp for Nestor Cortes.
If let's say we had one more year of Merrill Kelly, right?
Right, because and that's, I mean, the Diamondbacks have Merrill Kelly under control for one more season, just as the Yankees had control of one season of Nestor Cortes, and their salary figures are also very similar. I think you're looking around 7-8 million for both of those guys. So I think the equivalent deal for the Diamondbacks is Merrill Kelly plus some prospect. It's a little bit hard to identify which prospect, because the Diamondbacks don't really have anyone like Caleb Durbin right now. I don't think they have like that utility player that you feel really good about is going to be able to play a bunch of positions and be able to hit on some level in the majors. So it's a little hard for me to figure out who to pair with Merrill Kelly. I think maybe Gino Groover is not an unreasonable comp here.
Okay.
Someone who should be able to help you in the majors fairly soon. I mean, even Gino Groover, though, is a guy who I'm not sure that his floor is quite as high as someone like Caleb Durbin, just given the positional flexibility and the base stealing ability that Durbin has.
He killed it in the Arizona Fall League.
He did. He was on the Salt River Rafters. He was a teammate with Tommy Troy and Gino Groover.
29 for 30 in stolen bases in the Arizona Fall League. So he definitely got around the base path. I will say, I don't love, in my opinion, the return. Or, obviously what they had to give up in order to get him. I don't think the Yankees care, because at this point, the Yankees are changing direction with their starting pitching. And I think they're going to continue to pursue other starting pitchers. I think they're just going to try to upgrade their pitching. That feels like that's very much what they're focusing on right now. The fact that they now missed out on Kyle Tucker is another swing and miss, because according to reports, Kyle Tucker is going to the Cubs in exchange for a few really good looking players, Jesse.
Yeah, that's another huge story that just came out here in the last hour or so before we went live. Kyle Tucker is a really, really good baseball player. Like, I'm not going to say that this is necessarily like the Cubs signing Juan Soto, but it's not that far away from the Cubs getting Juan Soto.
Here's what I'll say. It's the Yankees missing out on both Juan Soto and Kyle Tucker, probably number 1 and number 2 on their priority list as far as who they were going to go after, position players wise, at least.
Yeah,
this offseason.
I mean, they still got Max Fried and now Devin Williams, so the Yankees are still they're still doing okay for themselves. But yeah, I mean, if the Cubs are able to extend Kyle Tucker, like, that's kind of the big question running through my head right now. If it is just one season of Kyle Tucker, then it is a lot to give up just for that one season. But look, I mean, what's happened around the league so far is not exactly great news for the Diamondbacks. You've got the Mets taking a huge step forward and landing an elite player in Juan Soto, and now you have the Cubs taking a big step forward, landing an elite player in Kyle Tucker. Those teams, I think, are, I'm not going to say that the Cubs and the Mets are both way ahead of the Diamondbacks with where things stand right now. But yeah, the Diamondbacks, they certainly have some catching up to do given what some of these other teams have done.
I'll say this, when it comes to what these other teams are doing, and especially now with the Cubs, that's a big problem. We know the Cubs are going to be active. We know the Cubs are also very much in the Roki Sasaki race as well. They've been making quite a push for him. Like, there is a lot of competition that is starting to brew. I guess you could say it's good that the top teams aren't necessarily all the ones getting these guys. It's being spread around a little bit throughout Major League Baseball. A couple of franchises are trying to go for it. Very much hoping, based on reports, that the Toronto Blue Jays come in and steal Corbin Burnes away from the San Francisco Giants, because that would be a big win. This feels, I spent a lot of time thinking about the fact that I have to go to the Waffle House, so I'm making a lot of fantasy football metaphors, but it feels like right now for the Diamondbacks, instead of you being more worried about what your team is doing, you have to be more worried right now about what other teams are doing, and you almost have to hope that these little battles that are taking place that do impact you go the other way. Like, if it's the Blue Jays and the Giants in on Corbin Burnes right now, let's go Toronto. I will, oh, Canada. I'm in, because we need to do everything we can to make sure that the NL West doesn't get better. When it comes to this, situation with Kyle Tucker, you don't really want the Yankees to all of a sudden become, this unbeatable force as well. But I would have almost rather that the Yankees got Kyle
100%.
Tucker than the Cubs did.
100%.
No offense to CHGO guys. I know you guys are having a big day over there, but not so great for us over here on the Diamondbacks podcast.
If you're the Diamondbacks, you wanted the Yankees to get all of these guys.
Everybody,
right? You wanted the Yankees to get Soto.
The Blue Jays, the Yankees, Red Sox, go off, all of you guys.
In a sense, the richer get richer mindset, it kind of benefits the Diamondbacks. Even I think when it comes to the Dodgers on some level, right? Like, you'd rather get the Dodgers get some big names than the Padres, because I think the Diamondbacks have a more realistic chance to compete with the Padres than they do with the Dodgers. Just feels like sort of a lost cause to begin with, right? I'm curious for you, though, if the comp, and granted, this is not a perfect comp, but if the comp is Merrill Kelly and Gino Groover for Devin Williams, is that a trade you feel like the Diamondbacks should have made?
Wow.
Because I think probably not, right? Like, Devin Williams would be great to have, but not at the cost of Merrill Kelly. He's just too important to this Diamondbacks rotation in my mind.
I think the difference there is, if you told me that the Diamondbacks just also landed Corbin Burnes, then that's different, right?
Sure.
So
that feels a little unlikely.
No, right. But I'm just saying, with the Yankees, they got Max Fried, right? So it's like you just landed that ace at the beginning of your staff, and that's not even the ace, right? Like, you got Garrett Cole. You got an amazing pitching staff that you're putting together there. And you feel like Nestor Cortes is expendable. If there was a scenario where I felt like Merrill Kelly was the odd man out, then I guess I would be a little bit more okay with that. It would have to be, though, and I mean, we are in a position where they have a 6-man rotation. I just don't feel like Merrill Kelly is the number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6 man there. I feel like he's more maybe 3 at worst, but more likely the second best pitcher in that starting rotation. So I don't feel as comfortable saying that the Diamondbacks should have made that trade. It's also, like you said, I think it's about, if you were telling me that the Diamondbacks were going to be able to extend Devin Williams and keep him here for 3 to 5 more years, then I think I would be on board for that. But with it just being a 1-year rental, I don't know. I will say that the Diamondbacks are all in on this year. So that's the one thing, is that they, might make some moves like this that are centered around them going for it this season. With the way these other teams are rearming, I don't know how much as a GM I would be willing to sacrifice with the way things are shaping up, thinking that this is going to be our year. And I know that's a loser talk already here on December 13th, 2024, before we've even reached 2025. It's just the reality of the situation. You can't sit there and go out there and start swinging your D around with these guys that have billions of dollars to spend during these offseason. Literally, the Mets are approaching $1 billion they've committed to almost this offseason, right? And they probably will hit that mark before all is said and done. I wouldn't be surprised to see them do it. I think they're $200,000 away or less than that. But I don't know. I think that it's going to be hard. And as we covered yesterday, when it came to this division, you do have to do crazy things in order to keep up with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the Diamondbacks to acquire the talent you feel like they kind of need to keep up with everyone within the budgetary constraints that they have. And I think yesterday we kind of drove home the point that it feels like you're going to have to make a trade, maybe multiple trades, in order to really bring in the kind of talent that you feel like you need. I think Nestor Cortes is a pretty good pitcher. I know the point was made in the chat that, he wasn't the game 2 starter for the Yankees necessarily. But I mean, this is a guy with a 3.77 ERA last year and over 170 innings. You look at his numbers over the last several seasons put together, it's pretty similar to what Merrill Kelly has been for the Diamondbacks. So I think locally, people probably view Merrill Kelly a little bit more highly than people around the industry do. And granted, I think there's some legitimacy behind that. Like Merrill was awesome during the playoffs for sure. Like he showed that he could be a force for you in the postseason in a starting rotation, pitching in those most important games. But yeah, I think if you're the Dbacks, there's no way that you're trading Merrill Kelly for Devin Williams. And it is a little disheartening looking at what some of these teams are paying to upgrade, both in terms of trade capital and in terms of just money. All of it, I think, has been higher than what you maybe expected going into the offseason.
Well, the Diamondbacks definitely have a lot of moves that they have to make. Ernesto in the chat says, I think it's clear the D-backs going all in was last year. That may be true, but I don't think it was like all in the same way this year is, because they had this year to fall back on. These guys from last year, with the exception of, a few names, which, to be honest, didn't know how the Jock Peterson, Randall Grichuk platoon was going to work out. Didn't know how a lot of things would go. I think they figured, Christian Walker was probably going to go and test free agency after the year. But outside of that, last year was kind of a gamble. You can't really say that they went all in. But I will also say that the move to get Jordan Montgomery was very much an all-in move. And they did have, like I said, 2 years of control there with him that they knew was most likely going to happen with that player, deal, player option. Now we sit in a situation where they kind of have to be all in. Nicklin says, budget constraint. We have a billionaire owner who's old. Spend some money before you die, bro. Hey, I will say, I mean, it's budget constraint. It is. It's real. Like, I mean, it is. I know people think that there's just that money to be put into this team, but unfortunately, the team has to make money in order for them to put it in. Unless you're Steve Cohen, who has very deep pockets and is going to spend as much money as it takes to make the Mets into a winner. Not everybody's going to have a Steve Cohen as an owner, unfortunately. I do think that the Diamondbacks will go out and actively try to improve this team, both in free agency and through trades. The trade portion, though, like with this Devin Williams trade, is like, how much is it going to cost them? How what are they going to lose, and then what are they going to need to, like, obviously we know they have a surplus in outfielders, surplus in starting pitching, but might take more than that in order for them to get a deal done.
It might, yeah. I mean, I know there are a few other back end relievers in the trade market that we've talked about, guys like Ryan Helsley, Pete Fairbanks. I imagine the ask for those guys maybe isn't quite as high as the ask for Devin Williams. I guess Helsley, you'd figure, would probably be pretty similar. But it was always going to be tough for the Dbacks to play at the top of the market when it came to a back-end reliever, right? Whether it's via trade with someone like Ryan Helsley or via free agency with someone like Tanner Scott, like you have to outbid everyone else, right? I mean, that's what it ultimately comes down to.
Yeah.
Even if it feels like that's an overpay, like you have to be willing to pay more than anyone else is willing to pay. That's what this ultimately comes down to. And teams around the league seem to be very aggressive in trying to make those upgrades going into 2025.
I appreciate your comments. You guys being here with your wonderful words help us get through what feels like a kind of a disheartening day. I think it's once again, it's not the fact that we don't think the Diamondbacks are going to do something. It's the fact that we continue to watch all these other teams be very active. And not only do we not have anything happening for the Diamondbacks, I don't like there's not really anything cooking.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
Like
at this point, we're used to having at least several rumors, right? Like Dbacks are connected to Xander Bogaerts or trading for Sean Murphy, or but yeah, this year we've basically had nothing.
We
right?
have to make up the rumors. We're the ones fabricating this stuff, but it's for stuff that makes sense. And I mean, obviously, we know what the Diamondbacks need, and there's only so many players available. Like they might run out of time here. You know, that's the other thing here is there is a ticking clock on players that are available. Devin Williams was one of our options for the Diamondbacks to upgrade their bullpen at the back end. So I think we can now take a look at who's left, who's available either via trade or via free agency, and how we can help make this Diamondbacks team whole once again. We're going to do that on the other side of this break with another edition of our Tier Maker. It's not Tuesday. I guess it's Tier Maker Friday.
Can we do Tier Maker Friday?
Yeah, we'll do Tier Maker day of the week after that. Of course, we'll get to that on the other side of this break. You're watching the PHNX Dbacks show. Can't say enough about how much me and this guy love HelloFresh. HelloFresh absolutely helps save our lives when it comes to eating very nutritious meals, and takes a lot of the work out of it, mostly going to the store and figuring out how to combine the things we see on the shelves together to make a nutritious, delicious meal like our people at HelloFresh do for us. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Let me tell you, me and my family did absolutely actually have fun cooking together. I delegated a lot of responsibilities to my wife and daughter, but that's kind of, I guess, what made it fun for me. What makes it fun for you is right now you can get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/free Dbacks. Applied across 7 boxes, new subscribers only, varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/free Dbacks and start eating better today. It is the last call for our PHNX Winter Pickleball Tournament on December 14th. It's this Saturday, tomorrow, at Chicken and Pickle in Glendale. We have a big field this year. We have all skill levels welcome. We got PHNX prizes, food and drink specials, and so much more. Of course, the proceeds go to Operation Santa Claus, which is an amazing local charity. And of course, it's an annual donation drive that collects food, toys, and children's clothing, as well as monetary donations for several Arizona charities. You can sign up today over at gophnx.com/events, but you can also go check out Chicken and Pickle anytime. It's a wonderful indoor-outdoor entertainment complex. Of course, you can go there to play pickleball or chicken ball, which is a game I'm still trying to get made up, but there's a restaurant, there's a sports bar, there's all sorts of fun, and there's plenty of space to do it in. So make sure to check out their amazing complex over there in Glendale. Head to chickenandpickle.com to see all the fun you can have at their Glendale location. All right, Jesse. Well, we have a pool of players that we consider to be available to the Arizona Diamondbacks potentially this offseason in order to upgrade their bullpen. And we do know that's a priority for this team. So we are going to do our best to rank those players with another edition of Tier Maker. All right, Jesse, what do we got here?
Yeah, so I guess we'll just go in order. And the first guy on the list Again, we're specifically looking at relief pitchers. We're looking at back-end relievers because we know that's something the Diamondbacks want.
Correct.
They do want a closer. A lot of these guys have recent closing experience, but there's a few in here that are more just back-end relievers who would be more like setup guys. Certainly possible the Diamondbacks ultimately land there instead. So yeah, the first guy on the list, Derek, is Chris Martin. Maybe not exactly a household name,
No.
but this is a guy who pitched for the Boston Red Sox in 2024 and was quite good. He had a 3.45 ERA. He basically never walks anyone. He had 3 walks in 44 and a third innings, which is absolutely outrageous. 50 strikeouts, which is a pretty good number in 44 and a third innings as well. Kind of surprising in some ways that he had a mid-3 ERA, given that he basically never walked anyone. I guess the downside with him is that he is 38 years old, so certainly getting close to the end of his career. Not so much a closer, more of a setup type. He had just 2 saves in 2024, just 14 saves in his career. So what are we feeling here, Derek?
The first thing I think about here is the fact that since he's not a closer, I don't know if I can put him based on the Diamondbacks' needs in the S tier or the A tier.
Right? I agree with that.
He's a setup man, and I think as much as he can absolutely make this bullpen better, I don't know if he's exactly what the Diamondbacks are looking for. However, the walks are impressive. His ERA is very, very good. And he is one of the best arms available on the market. When you take a look at his WAR, 2.5 WAR, just good enough for what I think about the 6th or 7th best available relief pitcher as far as WAR is concerned. So I think he would be a good fit in like the B tier. But that feels like a little high. Maybe C might be a little bit more appropriate.
Yeah, I think I'm going with C on this one. The peripherals are pretty compelling. He had a 1.05 ERA in 2023, which is insane. But yeah, at this stage, I don't know if you're necessarily counting on Chris Martin as like, a dominant reliever. So he wouldn't be a bad get. He'd be an asset for the team, but he's probably not a closer. And among the setup guys in this bullpen, like I still think Justin Martinez and AJ Puck would probably still be higher on the depth chart than Chris Martin. So I think C is reasonable.
All right, who do we have next?
Well,
what do you got?
I also want to bring up the fact that Chris Martin falls into the same category as Carlos Santana, who, when you Google them, a singer or a musical artist pops up.
Good luck.
Sure.
Good luck.
Yes.
Good luck
Yes.
finding pictures of him.
Yes.
Yeah, that's difficult. Lead singer of Coldplay. Big fan. All right, what else we got?
Carlos Estevez is next. This is a name people are probably more familiar with.
I like Carlos Estevez.
Traded to the Phillies at the trade deadline this past year. Was pretty good for the Phillies in the second half. His strikeout numbers dropped a little bit, but Carlos Estevez is for sure a closer. That's the role that he had in Philadelphia as part of a pretty stellar, pretty impressive bullpen group there. So I think he's higher than Chris Martin. I don't think he's S tier because I just don't really think that Carlos Estevez misses the bats that you would want in like a truly elite back-end reliever. He had a total of 50 strikeouts and 55 innings in 2024, a strikeout rate of 23.6%, which really is not all that impressive for a back-end reliever. So I'm feeling B here, Derek, but curious what you think.
I think similar. I mean, I feel like he could also be in the C tier there ahead of Chris Martin as well. I mean, I do think that he is a really good arm, and I think he was the one I picked yesterday to add with my $30 million. So, yeah, let's go B.
I think that's fair. He has closing experience, had 26 saves this past year, a 2.45 ERA. He'd be a solid get. He's not an elite closer, but he is a bona fide closer for sure.
All right, next up.
Next up, we have Pete Fairbanks from the Tampa Bay Rays. This is a trade target, of course. He has 2 years of club control remaining, has dealt with some injuries recently. He missed the latter month and a half or so of the season with a lat strain, which is sort of a recurring thing with him. Second time he's had that in the past few years. So there are some injury concerns here, Derek. I think that's maybe the biggest concern. Fairbanks has regressed a little bit from a result standpoint as well. He was one of the best closers in the league not long ago. This season, he had a 3.57 ERA. His strikeout rate dipped pretty dramatically. It was 37% in 2023, just 23.8% this year. So another guy that I think, you can you can plug him in the ninth inning. He has closing experience. He knows what pitching in that spot is like. But I think, again, you're in kind of a similar spot to Estevez, where you're not necessarily expecting elite results at this stage in his career. And there's some injury risk here, as I mentioned earlier.
I don't love it. I think that we would be looking at probably a D tier. I don't want to be mean enough to put him in the hell tier, but what are your thoughts?
I think D or hell is probably a little bit harsh for Pete Fairbanks, Derek.
I don't know.
I mean, this is still like, he had a 3.57 ERA, right? That's fine. That's not terrible.
Tim remembers when we smacked him around twice.
We did. Yes, the Diamondbacks did do that. However,
we sure did.
That was, I believe, the day that he got hurt. He left. I think he gave up a home run to Corbin Carroll, and then he was removed from the game like immediately after that. And now it's when he had the shoulder injury that ended his season. So I think because of the injury risk, you could argue he's lower than Carlos Estevez. Estevez definitely had a better season in 2024, but
is he under contract? Would he be a trade candidate? He's not a free agent.
Yeah, Fairbanks is a trade candidate. 2 years of control left, only making about $3.8 million, something around there for 2025. Would bump up a little bit the year after that.
I'm good with C behind Chris Martin.
I would probably put him ahead of Chris Martin if I may make that case.
You absolutely can.
I just think that Fairbanks is a closer. Like, Fairbanks is someone who has a lot of experience in that role. Sure. And if he's healthy, his ceiling is very high. Like, he was a really, really good pitcher for the Rays before some of these injuries have sort of been a deterrent for him. So, but I think C is reasonable given some of the injury history there.
All right. Next up, Jesse.
Next up is someone that I think will belong near the top of this list, Derek. It's Ryan Helsley of the St. Louis Cardinals, the guy that we've talked about multiple times as a potential target. I don't know if the Cardinals are going to trade him. Recent reports say that they're maybe thinking of holding on to him, maybe until the trade deadline. I don't really understand why they would do that. I think he's probably still available at whatever price they're looking to set here. I think he probably has to be S tier.
S tier.
Yeah.
He had a 3.0 WAR in 2024, 2.04 ERA, 49 saves.
Yeah, he's
for a bad team. Team from a bad city where bad guys come from.
Watch it. Watch it, or else we won't give you Helsley. Keep talking like that. I'll make sure it doesn't happen.
Oh, the threats are coming in now. All right.
Helsley throws 100 miles an hour. He had an ERA of 2.04 this past year. He got Cy Young votes. Like, if any reliever in the National League is better than Devin Williams, it's probably Ryan Helsley. So if he's not S tier, I don't know who is. I think he has to belong.
I agree completely.
Next, we have Jeff Hoffman of the Philadelphia Phillies, who we talked about him a little bit yesterday. Yeah. He was in my group of players that I would sign for $30 million, even though that group was completely unrealistic because all of them were going to take more money than what we were going off with the FanGraphs projections yesterday. But Jeff Hoffman for me has to be A or S. He is one of the best relievers in all of baseball. He's going to get like a 3 or 4 year contract this offseason. There have been some reports about teams wanting to use him as a starting pitcher, which is interesting. I ultimately feel like he probably lands as a reliever, but who knows?
Didn't work out for AJ Puck, that's for sure.
It did not. It did work out pretty well for Reynaldo Lopez, though, last year.
True.
I'm feeling A with Jeff Hoffman.
Yeah, and I think that part of it is Ryan Helsley would be available via a trade that would cost the Diamondbacks a tremendous amount.
Right.
It's like both of these are going to cost a ridiculous amount. One is money, one is assets. So I think that the Diamondbacks might have assets to trade, even though it would be an absolute haul. It would be gut wrenching what they would have to give up to the St. Louis Cardinals to get Ryan Helsley. That's the truth. But I don't know if they have the money to even approach a contract for Jeff Hoffman, but they might. And,
I mean, they could sign Jeff Hoffman. They just wouldn't have, that would probably take $12 to $14 million per year, something like that. Yeah. So if you've got $25 million of budget space, like that's half of the money that you have to spend.
And you still need to get a first baseman.
And you still have some other needs.
Yeah. I like it. I like him at A. he had 10 saves. He had a 2.17 ERA and a 2.0 WAR. He was a good pitcher.
He's really good. He was an all-star. Yeah, I don't think the D-backs would want him as a starter. Maybe some other team does.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Kenley Jansen, who is a name that D-backs fans are probably familiar with on some level. He's still doing the thing, Derek. He's still throwing his 92-mile-an-hour cutter. He is not elite. He has not been elite for a while, but he's been pretty good, pretty steady in that ninth inning in recent years, pitching with the Boston Red Sox most recently.
Honestly, he surprised me because I did think when he left, for some reason, he had that brief stint with the Braves, and then he went to Boston, and I just, in my mind, I wrote him off as being washed at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just waiting for the end of Jansen's career. And I mean, man, it's been going strong for 14 seasons now. 14 seasons of Kenley Jansen, and a lot of them with the Dodgers. But yeah, last season, a 3.29 ERA at 1.3 WAR. He pitched 54 2/3 innings pitched. I mean, he's a decent reliever.
Yeah. I mean, 27 saves. Yeah, he continues to get the job done. He throws like 85% cutters, and it's only like 91, 92 miles an hour at this point, but somehow it still kind of works. So I think you're probably just looking at a 1-year contract with Kenley Jansen. He is 37 years old at this point. He feels like a B to me, B or C.
I feel like C.
Okay, I'm all right with that. I think there's a case to be made that he is. You'd rather have Carlos Estevez than Jansen. Estevez is much younger and throws 99 miles an hour.
Put him in the middle.
Well, yeah, I was about to ask where you guys wanted my guy Kenley.
Yeah. I think that's reasonable.
What else we got?
Jose Leclerc of the Texas Rangers. This guy probably not going to be near the top of the list. Leclerc was a pretty good reliever for the Texas Rangers in 2023 or in 2022 and 2023. D-backs saw a little bit of Leclerc in the postseason in the World Series last year. Leclerc got some saves for those Rangers teams. A little bit more of a setup type role for him, though. This season was not a great year for him. He had a 4.32 ERA, but the peripherals were still pretty good. 12 Ks per nine, a strikeout rate over 30%. So this is kind of like a buy low candidate in my mind who does have some closing experience.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be near the top of the list.
And I mean, honestly, he hasn't pitched a ton, but as a reliever, he was pretty good in 2022 and 2023 at a 2.83 ERA in 22 and a 2.68 ERA in 2023. Maybe based on him having a down year, he would also be fairly cheap. But,
yes.
I don't know, man. I think when it comes to what I'm looking at, I'm not excited about that. And I think that he kind of factors in if he, it's a bounce back situation. But I don't know if the Diamondbacks.
If you're the D-backs, do you want like a buy low bounce back type guy?
I don't know if they can afford to do that and then have it not work out, right? So I would say probably D for me.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
No disrespect. All right, what else we got?
Andres Munoz of the Seattle Mariners. Shane, if Shane were here, he'd be pouting that we're talking about Andres Munoz.
We're going to talk about him.
I don't think the Mariners are going to trade Munoz. I included him in a list of potential relievers the D-backs could target, and there were some very angry Mariners fans coming at me saying that they would never do this, which to that I basically said, yes, but Jerry Dipoto is your GM, and you can never really rule out anything definitively.
And we're the Diamondbacks, and there's just a weird connection between these two teams.
We can't let an offseason go by without a Diamondbacks Mariners trade happening. So I think this is quite unlikely, but Andres Munoz is one of the best closers in all of baseball. He had an ERA of 2.12 for the Mariners this past year, 22 saves. He strikes out a lot of guys. Velo has dropped each of the last couple of seasons, which is maybe a little odd for someone who's only 25 years old. But the results are still really excellent, and he's still throwing, 97, 98 miles an hour. So I think you feel pretty good about Munoz. He probably belongs near the top of this list. It would take an absolute haul to acquire him. He has 4 years of club control remaining. So in terms of like big prices to pay, Munoz might cost you more than just about anyone else here. But again, he is very, very good.
Are we putting him in the S tier?
Yeah, that's tough. I think I probably would. I think I probably would put him in the S tier behind Helsley, but I would probably put him in the S tier.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. He's an incredible pitcher. He would be an incredible asset. And again, if the Diamondbacks could simply acquire one of those type of guys, right? Like an S tier or an A tier guy, it really does make this one of not only the best bullpens that this team has ever had in franchise history, but puts it right up there with one of the best bullpens in baseball, right? So, and I'm fairly confident about that. That's the reason why, again, when we talk about the moves and the lack of moves, I should say, by the Diamondbacks when it comes to what Mike Hazen has done and what he's talked about and how he feels, where this team is at right now, there's not a lot of additions that are needed in order for you to suddenly say, all right, now the Diamondbacks are back. Now they're back to competing with these teams like the Cubs and the Giants. As far as them standing still right now, though, that's the reason why it definitely feels like, at least in the moment right now, that they're kind of being passed up with these trades and some of the free agent moves that are being made. But we have more players to rank on the other side of this break, and we are going to do so. So don't you guys go anywhere. You're watching this guy and this guy on the PHNX Dbacks show. It is bowl season, and of course, if you want to have some fun this holiday season, downtown Phoenix at our second home, we'll be hopping across the street. Chase Field is going to be hosting the Rate Bowl. Get ready to huddle up at Chase Field for college football postseason action. The Rate Bowl kicks off on December 26th at 3:30 p.m. If you have some family coming into town, or if you're just taking some time off around the holidays, it's a great time to huddle up. Bring your friends, bring your family, come on down to Chase Field and watch a football game in a Major League Baseball park, making it one of the most unique and fun atmosphere in all of sports. It's also the only bowl game featuring a matchup between the Big 10 and Big 12 teams, two of the toughest conferences in the country. Game tickets, premium experiences, and reserved parking are all available. Get yours now at ratebowl.com. And of course, if you're heading to the Rate Bowl, make sure to stop by Circle K wherever you are. It doesn't matter, even if you're not going to the Rate Bowl, wherever you're going, stop by Circle K right now and get yourself something to drink, get yourself a snack. We just got some new snacks here in the office, and I'm very thrilled. I need more of everything Circle K has to offer, because I know they have lots of snacks. They have national brands, they have other things, but do not sleep on the Circle K branded snacks. They are amazing. If you sign up right now for the Inner Circle, you can get some snacks for free. They have punch cards in the Inner Circle. You can get a buy 5, get a 6th one free on a selection of Circle K products. You'll also get your first 5 Polar Pops for free, and you'll save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Do so by joining the Inner Circle for absolutely free. All you gotta do is download the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply. At participating locations, visit CircleK.com for details. Sir.
Me and the iconic Eric Ruby went to Circle K last night for PHNX Puffs, Derek.
Got some.
They have some incredible deals. You can literally do like a Polar Pop, a bag of chips, and a hot dog for like $3.
Yeah. Where are you getting that kind of deal anywhere?
Circle K.
They just don't exist. Circle K. That's it. That's where you got to go. Circle K. All right. Well, we got some more relief pitchers to rank here. So let's get back to our tier ranking. Who do we got next, Jesse?
Ryan Pressly of the Houston Astros. I talked with some Astros reporters while I was at the winter meetings, Derek, and there was some talk about how Ryan Pressly to the Diamondbacks could maybe make some sense for both sides. Pressly is owed a decent amount of money in 2025. I believe it is $14 million. I will double check that real quick. And he's coming off a season where he had a 3.49 ERA, a 1.34 WHIP. He was the Astros closer in the pre-Josh Hader era. He was quite good in that role for a long time. His strikeout rate, however, has dropped pretty significantly in recent years. It was up over 35% in 2022, 27% in 2023, and then it was 23.8% in 2024. So things are definitely moving in the wrong direction here as Pressly is 35 years old, but he does have a lot of experience in a closing role, has over 100 career saves. I think he's I don't know how I feel where I would put him. Probably B or C, but I'm not sure exactly where.
I think talent-wise, he might still be a B. I mean, like you said, you definitely see some. I mean, he's trending in the wrong direction. His ERA has gone up over the last few years. He kind of had a sub-3 ERA, but then you see it kind of peaking. He's still at 3.49 in 2024, so that's not terrible at all. I would say probably, I don't know. I feel like the money he's owed puts him more in the C category.
I think that's probably fair.
Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, it might be a trade where you don't have to give up all that much because of the money, and it's sort of like a salary dump from the Astros standpoint. So, yeah, I think he's probably in the C tier. I would rather have Carlos Estevez for sure.
Front of the C tier?
Where exactly in the C tier? Oh, that's tricky.
Because talent-wise, I would say we'd be at the top of the C tier, but the problem is the money that he's owed theoretically, right? And what do you think?
I think, oh man, that is tough. Fairbanks, I like healthy Pete Fairbanks. I like better than Ryan Pressly at this point. Kenley Jansen versus Ryan Pressly, man, that's tough. I think I would probably put him. I think I'd put him between Jansen and Chris Martin right there. Yeah.
Forgive my yawning, by the way. I went to Festivus last night, and I had myself a very long night after enjoying a Korean bulgogi.
You made a bad
cheesesteak.
You made a bad food choice.
Too late. I'm too old
late at
to
night.
do this anymore, Jesse. It's just, I'm not gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna recover. I don't know if I'll ever recover from it. But who else we got?
All right. Next is another Texas Ranger, former Texas Ranger, David Robertson, who was not a closer for them this past year.
Was not.
He was the setup guy. We're going to get to the closer from that Rangers team, who's also a free agent and could be an option for the Diamondbacks. But David Robertson was their setup guy, and he was really good, Derek. An ERA of 3 on the dot, 99 strikeouts in 72 innings. He was durable, and he's kind of a legend. Like David Robertson is 39 years old, and just kind of keeps on doing the thing.
I'm fairly certain he's already 40. Is he not 40?
He is 39 in 248 days.
Right,
He'll turn 40 like right when the season starts, though. So
I feel like I have to. Why you're making me attack my fellow old man here because he put up some incredible numbers this year. A 3.1 WAR. I mean, he is the third highest WAR of all available relief pitchers on the free agency market.
I think 3.1 sounds high to me. Is that like maybe the last 2 seasons combined or something?
No, this is MLB.com's website, Jesse. So no,
maybe not. MLB.com is going crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going crazy.
You might be.
Yeah, I think at this point, like you probably don't want David Robertson to be your closer. So
no.
I think even though his numbers were good this past year, he's not an S tier and A tier guy for sure. Probably B or C. We're really stacking that C category. But I think
I'd say B.
You'd say B?
I'd say
40-year-old David Robertson.
I got to defend him. No, like you said, I mean, I like Pete Fairbanks better than David Robertson. But unfortunately, C. I'd say C. You okay with that? Do you want him below Kenley Jansen?
That's tough. I would probably put him below Kenley Jansen. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. And having him above Ryan Pressly, I think makes some sense because even though Pressly has more recent closing experience than David Robertson, like Robertson's strikeout rate was significantly higher than Ryan Pressly this past year. So. I think that's fair.
I refuse to participate in this next pitcher.
He's a free agent, Derek. He's available. We couldn't have this conversation without bringing up former Diamondbacks closer Paul Sewald. He is on our list. I have a feeling you don't want to put him all that high on this list.
I couldn't imagine the vibes being lower than if the announcement was made.
I think that's pretty reasonable. I think that's pretty
Paul
reasonable.
Sewald was coming back to this team.
And it's not to say that like it couldn't work out because I do think Sewald is like a decent buy low candidate. I think he was much worse in the second half of the season than like what I think he actually is as a pitcher at this point. He just had 1 month that was obviously horrendous. But yeah, at this point, if you're the Diamondbacks, like, some team should probably make a buy low bet on Paul Sewald. I don't think the Diamondbacks are that team, right? So probably somewhere near the bottom. I don't know. What do you think, Derek?
Hell tier.
We're putting Paul Sewald in hell tier.
Put him in the hell tier right now. And this is nothing against Paul Sewald. I think I've even defended Paul Sewald this very season for some reason. But it's mostly because he's a human being, and I still think Paul Sewald is a great person,
an awesome human being.
And an asset to this team as far as like a leader and the vibes that he brought, the jump around, all of that. I am doing this purely from a fan perspective. If you were to tell me that the Diamondbacks move to lock down the back end of their bullpen was to bring back Paul Sewald.
Yeah. It wouldn't quite pass the smell test. Right?
I would lose it. I would literally lose it. So, and I think that's the only reason why. Probably belongs more in the D tier, but based on our relationship, we're putting him in L tier.
I think that's fair.
What else do we got?
Well, we go straight from Paul Sewald to Tanner Scott. So there's not really a great way to make
all the way up to the top.
It's not a great way to make this transition.
From outhouse to penthouse, let's go to the top.
Tanner Scott definitely belongs in the S tier. The only question here is whether we should put him between Munoz and Helsley at the top, behind those guys. Let me double check Tanner Scott.
I will say this. I think that Tanner Scott is at least available. He's essentially the top free agent reliever available on the market.
Yeah.
So
he had a 1.75 ERA this past year, which is pretty bonkers.
Does him being available as a free agent versus both of the other guys only available via trade make him rank him higher for you?
It's tough to say because, frankly, I think all of these guys are going to cost too much for the Diamondbacks, whether in trade or free agency. So I don't know if that's a distinguishing factor for me. I think I would probably put Helsley above Tanner Scott. So right where we have him right now.
Yeah. Just
because Tanner Scott does walk a lot of guys. He was at 4.5 walks per 9 this last year. Whereas Ryan Helsley was at 3.1. So there's maybe a little bit less risk when it comes to that. But yeah, I mean, all of those guys at the top are pretty awesome. So I think right in between Helsley and Munoz is fair.
All right. We got 2 more guys left. Who do we got, Jesse? Well, let's hold off on this. Let's do a quick commercial break, and then we will finish up with the final 2 relief pitchers that we have available on our list and where they rank. Don't you guys go anywhere. We'll be right back. Gila River Resorts and Casinos is the place where you should be spending your holidays for fun and excitement because no one does it better. You can visit any one of their 4 locations here in town to experience the best the Valley has to offer. You can also join us for our Suns and Cardinals watch parties, which we are going to continue to have. Not to mention, we're adding new events out there all season long. We have to thank the good folks at Gila River for being such gracious hosts whenever we've been out there to have our events, and we've had so much fun hanging out with you guys. Make sure to join us for events in the future, as well as just go out, have yourself a blast. You can go big and go home a winner at Gila River Resorts and Casinos with an unprecedented level of entertainment and excitement that you just won't find anywhere else in the desert. They've set a high bar. So head to Gila River Resorts and Casinos and let them show you what the next level is all about. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. And of course, it is bowl season here in town, and the Rate Bowl isn't the only bowl game going on. We have the Fiesta Bowl. Viva the fans, Viva New Year's Eve, and Viva a new era of college football. The VRBO Fiesta Bowl will host the first playoff quarterfinal in history, and this is a very exciting time of the year to be a Sun Devils fan. This has implications on who they might end up playing at some point. Who knows? I'm getting too ahead of myself with that, but this does mean the road to college football national championship goes through us here with the Fiesta Bowl on December 31st at 5:30 p.m. Number 3 seed Boise State takes on the winner of SMU and Penn State. Don't miss the epic pregame Fan Fest block party featuring live entertainment, fun games, food, beverages, and more. Then witness college football history, all while securing priority for future college football playoff games. Join us for the first ever college football playoff quarterfinal at the VRBO Fiesta Bowl. Buy your tickets, reserve parking, and premium experiences at fiestabowl.org/tickets, and Viva Fiesta. Fiesta forever is what we say with me and my friends. Jesse, we got 2 more to finish up, and then we do have some Diamondbacks news actually to get to, because the Diamondbacks did announce their official coaching staff for the 2025 season. But before we get to that, we got to figure out where we're going to rank our last 2 pitchers here, Jesse. And of course, we have here Mr. Kirby Yates from the Texas Rangers.
Yes. Yeah. I guess he was David Robertson's counterpart at the back end of that Rangers bullpen. And both guys are kind of old, and both guys like totally shoved. And Kirby Yates, even more so than David Robertson. Yates had just an absolutely bonkers season for the Texas Rangers this last year.
Yeah. His
opponent batting average started with a 1 and was like low ones. I believe it was 111, if you can believe that. He had a 1.17 ERA also, which is unbelievable. He blew 1 save all season, and it was a game that the Rangers still won. So I think he has to, like, I can't really put him in the S tier, because I think at this stage in Yates' career, there's a little bit of volatility here, but I think he probably belongs in the A tier. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. You're not going to get any argument over that. I don't, the Rangers are another team that I don't really know what they're doing. But maybe they'd be willing.
They're doing a lot. We don't exactly know how all the pieces fit together, but the Rangers have been one of the most active teams in the league so far.
Yep.
Our last name here is Kyle Finnegan of the Washington Nationals, who of course was non-tendered by the Nationals recently, but remains a fairly interesting back end candidate. Has quite a bit of closing experience, filled that role for the Nats in 2024. Not great numbers, a 3.68 ERA, a 1.34 whip. His FIP was up over 4 at 4.25. So he is by no means an elite reliever, but he's someone who has held down this closing job for a while in DC and has done a fairly good job.
I think B tier feels fairly accurate with him. Is that too high?
That might be a little too high. I think that's probably a little too high for me.
We're just
throwing it. We're harsh graders, Derek. We put everyone.
I mean,
in the C tier.
One of us is a harsh grader. I like how you want to lump me into this. You want to put me in the C tier with all these guys as well. No, I'm not doing it.
Do you want to put? We could move Pete Fairbanks up to B. I wouldn't be opposed to that if you want to just kind of spread the love a little bit here.
I think that's fair.
Just having Carlos Estevez by himself in the B tier, he's going to get a little bit lonely there.
Yeah,
so
he's gotta have a friend.
Yeah.
But if you're in the D tier or the hell tier, you deserve to be lonely.
I think I would put. That's tough. I don't know if I would have. I don't know if I would have Finnegan at the top of that C tier. I think I think Jansen is higher than him. I think Robertson is higher, and I think Presley's higher too for me. So I think I would just have him above Chris Martin, maybe.
There you go.
I think
there is our ranking of the available free agent pitchers. So let's get this over to Elise so that she can make some moves happen for the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Really what we're needing to happen.
Get moving, Elise.
Well, speaking of Elise and her decisions with the coaching staff, the Arizona Diamondbacks have finalized their coaching staff for 2025. I think we have a screenshot here of them, like they're posed in front of oven mitts. But yeah, there's Torey Lovullo and his staff. Jeff Bannister is coming back as his bench coach. I don't know why, but I that is like the most surprising part to me. I just felt like Banny kind of still has such a great reputation, and kind of with the success of this team, I thought maybe someone was going to poach him away. We got Ron Washington, right, getting a job.
Yeah, there are some more traditionalist managers that have found jobs in recent years. But yeah, Jeff Bannister expected to come back this year as the bench coach. Of course, Sean Larkin, we've discussed recently, moving from farm director to third base coach, which is not a transition we see often.
No.
But excited for Sean to have that opportunity. And then if we could pull it up one more time real quick, Kevin, there are a couple of new names here. Owen Dew has been hired as an assistant pitching coach alongside Wellington Cepeda, who is going to be the bullpen coach for the Diamondbacks. And then Travis Denker, who's been working in the farm system for the past few years, is being elevated up to the big league staff and will be the third hitting coach behind Joe Mather and Damian Easley.
Well, it's a good staff, great people there, and the Diamondbacks at least have the coaching figured out. It's going to be interesting to see the impact having a new pitching coach has on the staff. I think that's the biggest question mark. And I think when you talk about why the Arizona Diamondbacks might not feel like they need to go out and I guess make a move immediately, it might be because they don't even know what this pitching staff is going to look like under, you know, a new coach. So we do appreciate you guys, of course, stopping by. We will see you guys on Monday. Hopefully we'll see that the Diamondbacks do something.
We'll have some news.
We'll surely have some news for you, but follow us on social in the meantime. I'm at Cap_Caveman with a K. He's at Jesse N. Friedman. Our guy, Large Intimate Kevin Thomas, is at Kevo Posts. Our show is at PHNX_Dbacks, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. We will see you back here on Monday. We thank you again for your time. And until then, remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when I actually get some sleep and the Diamondbacks stay awake, making moves happen to keep up with these other teams.
We all silly like the mayor.